Have you ever realized that you make decisions you never planned to make? That you change your plans without understanding why? That you feel guilty for things you didn't even do? Then pay attention to what I'm about to reveal, because this might be happening to you right now, and you have no idea. There is a type of control that doesn't scream. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't bang on the table. It whispers, smiles, caresses. And precisely for this reason, you can't see it. Female emotional manipulation is the most powerful psychological weapon in relationships because it perfectly disguises itself as love. By the time you finally realize it, you are already conditioned. You have already internalized the rules of the game. You already act on your own to maintain the affection you receive. The raw, naked truth is this: women dominate the emotional field in a way that most men can't even comprehend. I'm not talking about all women. I'm not talking about conscious malice. I'm talking about psychological strategies that work silently, molding your behavior without you noticing the change. And the worst part of it? You defend this prison as if it were freedom. Imagine waking up one day and discovering that your choices aren't yours. That the decision to cancel soccer with your friends wasn't your idea. That the apology you gave had no real basis. That the feeling of always owing her something was planted, watered, and cultivated. This is the moment when emotional control reveals itself, when you look back and no longer recognize who you were. The mechanism is simple, but lethal. It works through a cycle you don't see: emotional reward when you obey, cold distance when you resist. It's not shouting. It's silence. It's not fighting. It's coldness. It's not explicit punishment. It's the absence of validation. And your male brain, programmed to solve problems and seek harmony, enters silent despair. You can't stand the coldness. So, you adjust your behavior. And she didn't even have to ask for anything. The brilliance of this tactic lies in its invisibility. When a man is controlled by force, he knows he is being controlled and can react. But when control comes wrapped in affection, in carefully positioned compliments, in looks of approval and smiles of validation, you don't recognize the prison. You call it love. You defend it. You even thank her for it. I'll show you how this works in practice. She compliments you. Says you're different from other men. That you are mature, intelligent, understanding. Your chest swells. You feel special. And then subtly, she connects that compliment to a specific behavior. A mature man like you knows that a relationship requires constant presence. There. The compliment has become a command. And you didn't even notice. Now every time you want to go out alone, that phrase resonates in your head. You are no longer choosing. You are trying to maintain the identity she built for you. Because if you go out alone, maybe you're no longer that mature man she complimented. And losing that compliment hurts more than giving up your own will. This is just the beginning. Female emotional manipulation operates in layers. It doesn't attack your freedom directly because that would generate resistance. It redefines what freedom means to you. It transforms obedience into partnership, submission into maturity, control into care. And you accept all of this because it is accompanied by genuine affection at the right times. The affection is not fake. That's the detail that is confusing. She truly cares for you. But that affection is used strategically. It becomes a bargaining chip. It becomes a thermometer for your behavior. When you act as expected, she gets closer. When you resist, she pulls away. It's not agreed upon. It's not planned. It's instinctive. And precisely because of this, it is so effective. You start to notice patterns. After a day where you prioritized your plans, she becomes distant. She doesn't fight. She just gets cold. Answers briefly. Avoids physical contact. And you, without exactly understanding what happened, feel a growing anguish. Your brain desperately tries to understand what you did wrong. And the next time a similar situation arises, you automatically adjust. You sacrifice your plan before she even asks. And then the warmth returns. The smile returns. The affection is restored. You have just been conditioned. And the scariest part? You don't feel manipulated. You feel wise. That you chose to prioritize the relationship. That you are being a good partner. The truth is that you have only avoided the pain of emotional rejection. Female manipulation doesn't need words. It operates in the energetic field. in body language, in tone of voice, in response time. These signals don't lie to your emotional brain, even if your rational mind can't identify them. You just feel that something has changed, and you automatically adjust to restore balance. And here is the secret that few understand: she doesn't need to be conscious of it for it to work. Most women who use these tactics don't even know they are using them. It's instinct. It's learned behavior. It's an emotional survival strategy that has been passed down from generation to generation. It works because men and women play the emotional game with completely different rules. Men seek direct confrontation. They want clarity. They want the problem to be exposed to be solved. Women operate through nuances, through insinuations, through emotional contexts. And in this difference lies the battlefield where you lose without even knowing you were fighting. If you are enjoying this explanation and want to understand how to escape this invisible trap, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. What I'm about to reveal in the next few minutes will completely change the way you see relationships. Now that you understand the basics, you need to comprehend the deeper layers. Because emotional conditioning is just the first stage. Something much more dangerous is happening: the construction of your identity based on her validation. And when that happens, you stop being yourself. Let's talk about the most devastating psychological weapon that exists in relationships: the compliment as a command. This tactic is so subtle that you thank her while you are being programmed. It works like this: she identifies values that you consider important to your masculinity: strength, protection, honor, intelligence, maturity. Then she compliments these values in you. But she doesn't compliment them for free. She connects the compliment to the behavior she desires. When she says you are strong, she is not just recognizing your physical strength. She is defining what it means to be strong in the context of your relationship. A strong man handles pressure without complaining. A strong man puts her needs above his own. A strong man does not show emotional weakness. You heard a compliment, but you internalized a rule. And now that rule governs you. The danger of this strategy is that it turns your virtues into chains. Do you want to be seen as intelligent? Then you always need to agree with her analyses of social situations. Do you want to be seen as protective? Then you need to be available whenever she feels insecure, even if you are exhausted. Do you want to be seen as mature? Then you need to give up your hobbies that she considers childish. Do you see the pattern? She is not destroying your identity. She is rebuilding it. She is transforming you into the version of a man that serves her emotional interests. And you actively participate in this transformation because every adjustment brings a reward: the look of admiration, the smile of approval, the phrase that confirms you are being the right man. This process creates something devastating: emotional dependence on her validation. You start to measure your self-worth by the emotional reaction she has towards you. If she is happy, you feel competent. If she is distant, you feel like a failure. Your self-esteem has stopped being internal and has become external. You have handed over control of your self-worth to another person. From this point on, the manipulation no longer needs to be active. You police yourself. Even before making any decision, you already ask yourself how she will react. You no longer act by your own will. You act to avoid emotional rejection. You act to maintain the flow of validation. You act to not lose the affection that has become your emotional oxygen. This creates a vicious cycle. The more you seek validation, the more power you give away. The more power you give away, the more she defines the rules of the game. The more she defines the rules, the less autonomy you have. And the less autonomy you have, the more you need her validation to feel complete. It's a downward spiral disguised as a loving partnership. Now let's move to another layer: the strategic use of guilt. She will never directly say that you are guilty. That would be confrontation, and confrontation generates defense. Instead, she plants guilt through questions, silences, and sighs. She makes you feel guilty without needing to accuse you. You came home late after solving a problem at work. She doesn't scream. She just asks, in a neutral tone, "Will you always choose work over me?" It's not an accusation. It's a question. But this question carries a devastating assumption: that you are choosing, that there is a competition, that you are prioritizing incorrectly. And now you have to defend yourself against an accusation that was never explicitly made. You try to explain that it wasn't a choice, that it was urgent, that you had no option. But your justifications sound weak even to yourself. Because the question has already redefined the situation. It has already transformed a professional necessity into emotional betrayal. And you accept this redefinition because you cannot identify the manipulation behind the innocent question. This type of implicit guilt is deadly because it cannot be fought directly. If you react with anger, you are proving you are aggressive. If you justify too much, you are proving you actually did something wrong. If you ignore it, you are proving you don't care. There is no winning answer. The game was set up for you to lose. And here is the crucial detail: this guilt accumulates. Each small episode adds a layer. After months or years of this process, you carry a gigantic emotional weight. You feel that you owe her something. You feel that you are never enough. You feel that you need to compensate for failures you can't even clearly identify. You are in permanent emotional debt. When a man reaches this stage, he will do anything to pay off this invisible debt. He sacrifices time, money, dreams, friendships, everything to reduce that feeling of being indebted. But the debt never decreases. Because it is not a real debt. It is a psychological construct kept alive by small daily signals that you are still not enough. There is yet another dimension to this manipulation: control through disguised fear. She never threatens to leave you. That would be too obvious. Instead, she lets the possibility of abandonment hang in the air like a phantom threat. She casually mentions how other women would have left a man who acts like you. She comments about friends who are happy with more present partners. She sighs when she sees more connected couples on the street. None of these actions is a direct threat. But they all feed a constant fear, the fear that you are not good enough. The fear that she might find someone better. The fear that one day she will get tired. And this fear keeps you in a state of permanent alert, always trying to be better, always adjusting behavior, always seeking proof that she won't leave. The cruelest thing about this fear is that it is never fully soothed. Even when you do everything right, even when she shows affection, a part of you remains vigilant. Because you know deep down that the affection is conditional. That it depends on your performance. That it can be withdrawn at any moment if you don't maintain the standard. This turns you into an eternal performer. You are no longer living the relationship. You are enacting the role of the ideal partner. And like any performance, it is exhausting. You cannot relax. You cannot be vulnerable. You cannot fail. Because failing means risking losing everything. We have reached the most critical point, the moment when control is so internalized that she no longer needs to do anything. You have become your own jailer. The prison bars now exist only in your mind, but they are stronger than any physical chain. You police your thoughts, censor your desires, and adjust your actions automatically. External control has transformed into programmed self-control. This is the most perfect form of domination that exists. Because when you execute the control yourself, there is no one to fight against. There is no external villain. There is no visible oppressor. There is only you, your seemingly free choices, and a constant feeling of doing the right thing. But this feeling is false. You are only executing a program that was installed without your consent. Let's analyze how this stage works in practice. Your friends invite you for a weekend getaway. Your first impulse is no longer enthusiasm. It is mentally calculating how she will react. You don't need to ask her. You already know the answer because you have completely internalized her value system. You anticipate the sigh, the tone of voice, the phrase about commitment and priorities. So you decline the invitation even before talking to her. Do you see the brilliance? She didn't control your decision. You controlled it. She didn't stop you from going. You stopped yourself. And if someone questions it, you will defend your choice. You will say you are prioritizing the relationship, that you have matured, that you understand what truly matters. But the truth is that you only avoided the emotional pain that would come if you chose differently. You chose the prison because it is more comfortable than confrontation. This process affects every area of your life. Your friendships start to wither because you always have an excuse not to go out. Your hobbies are abandoned because there is never available time that doesn't generate tension. Your professional ambitions are adjusted so as not to compromise the emotional availability the relationship demands. You shrink, reduce, diminish. And you call this growth. What makes this even more devastating is that you defend this process. If someone points out that you have changed, that you are not the same anymore, you react with irritation. How dare they question your choices? How do they not understand that you are in a serious relationship? How can they be so immature? You attack those who try to free you because liberation feels like a threat. Here is the brutal truth you need to face. At this point, you are no longer in love. You are addicted. Addicted to validation. Addicted to approval. Addicted to avoiding the pain of emotional rejection. And like any addiction, you rationalize, justify, and defend the source of your addiction as if it were essential for your survival. The difference between love and emotional dependency is simple. In love, the presence of the other expands you. It makes you want to be more, do more, live more. In dependency, the presence of the other contracts you. It makes you walk on eggshells, measure words, calculate actions. Love generates freedom. Dependency generates anxiety. If you feel more fear of losing than joy of having, it is not love. It is a prison. But there is something even deeper happening. The manipulation is not just controlling you. It is transforming you. You begin to adopt her perspectives as your own. You start seeing situations through her eyes. Your judgments about other people reflect her judgments. Your political, social, and moral opinions gradually align. Not because you were convinced through arguments, but because disagreeing creates friction, and friction generates emotional distance. This transformation is silent and complete. You look in the mirror and still physically recognize yourself, but something fundamental has changed. The person you were before the relationship seems distant, almost like a past life. And you can't even pinpoint exactly when the change happened. It was so gradual, so subtle, so wrapped in affection, that you didn't notice each small step. The cruelest aspect of this manipulation is that it is often accompanied by genuine love. She genuinely loves you. But she loves you in her way, on her terms, in the version of you that she constructed. She doesn't love who you truly are. She loves who you have become to maintain her love. It is a vicious cycle where love is simultaneously real and conditional. You feel this love in the good moments. When you are aligned with expectations, when your behavior is appropriate, when you have performed the expected role well. In these moments, the connection is intense, the affection is abundant, everything seems perfect. And this reinforces the cycle. Because you want more of those moments. So you work even harder to maintain the standard. But in moments when you slip up, when your true nature emerges, when you act on your own impulse without calculating the emotional consequences, the love seems to evaporate. It doesn't disappear completely, but it cools. And this oscillation between hot and cold, approval and distance, keeps you in a constant attempt to recover maximum warmth. This is the essence of emotional manipulation, creating a system where you constantly work to maintain something that should be unconditional. True love does not demand performance. It does not demand that you be someone you are not. It does not cool when you are authentic. But you are so conditioned that authenticity has become a risk. Being yourself has become a threat to the relationship. And here we arrive at the darkest moment of all, the erosion of your ability to trust yourself. Because every time you ignored your instinct, every time you suppressed your will, every time you denied your perception to maintain peace, you sent a message to your brain: you cannot trust yourself. Your desires are wrong. Your instincts are selfish. Your perception is flawed. After months or years of this self-sabotage, you lose touch with your own internal compass. You no longer know what you truly want. You no longer trust your decisions. You need external validation for everything. And the main source of that validation is precisely the one who put you in this condition. You have become completely dependent on the person who destroyed your autonomy. Now comes the part that can save you: awareness. Because emotional control only works as long as it remains invisible. The moment you see the pattern, it begins to lose its power. It doesn't disappear immediately, but for the first time, you have a real chance to regain your emotional sovereignty. And this sovereignty does not come from aggressive confrontation. It comes from clear perception and conscious action. The first thing you need to understand is that recognizing manipulation doesn't mean the love is over. Nor does it mean she is a bad person. It only means that you were playing a game whose rules you didn't know. And now that you know the rules, you can choose whether to keep playing or completely redefine the board. The liberation begins with a simple yet powerful question: who would I be if I wasn't constantly trying to avoid emotional rejection? This question opens a door that has been locked for a long time. The door of your authenticity. Because you spent so much time being what was expected that you forgot who you truly are. Start small. Make a decision that is genuinely yours, without calculating her emotional reaction. It doesn't have to be something big. It could be choosing to watch a movie you want, scheduling a coffee with a friend, dedicating an hour to your forgotten hobby. The important thing is not the action itself. It is the act of deciding without fear. It is reclaiming the right to want something without needing emotional permission. What happens next will be revealing. She will feel the change. And she will probably react exactly as she always has, with distance, coldness, or some subtle form of disapproval. But here is the crucial difference. Now you know what is happening. You recognize the tactic. And that recognition gives you a choice that didn't exist before. You can choose not to react emotionally. You don't have to justify yourself. You don't have to apologize. You don't have to chase validation. Simply stick to your decision and observe. Observe your own anxiety emerging. Observe the desire to fix things returning. Observe all the old patterns trying to pull you back. But this time, just observe. Don't obey. This non-reaction is the most powerful weapon against emotional manipulation. Because the entire system was built upon your predictable reaction. When you stop reacting, the system collapses. She has nothing to push against. And this forces a complete reconfiguration of the relationship dynamic. Here comes something surprising. Often, when you stop dancing the dance of constant validation, the relationship improves. Because you stop being that needy and anxious man and return to being the interesting and autonomous person she met at the beginning. The respect returns. The genuine attraction returns. Because you have regained your own substance. But the opposite possibility also exists. When you establish healthy emotional boundaries, when you stop performing, when you reclaim your autonomy, she may not like it. She may increase the pressure. She may try more intense tactics. And if none of that works, she might even end the relationship. And here is the liberating truth. If she only wants you in the controlled version, then she never truly wanted you. Letting go of a relationship where you are only loved when you are imprisoned is not a loss. It is liberation. Is it painful? Yes. Is it scary? Extremely. But it is necessary. Because you cannot build a real life on false foundations. And a relationship based on emotional control, no matter how comfortable it seems, is always false. The moral lesson here is not that you should distrust all women. It is not that relationships are battlegrounds. It is not that you should become cold and calculating. The lesson is much deeper. Your emotional sovereignty is non-negotiable. You can love someone deeply without handing over control of who you are. You can be a partner without being submissive. You can prioritize the relationship without losing yourself in it. True love expands, never contracts. If you are becoming smaller, more anxious, more dependent, more insecure, then something is wrong. And that something needs to be corrected, even if the correction is painful. Because living trapped in a relationship that seems like love is worse than being alone. At least alone you are still yourself. The recovery of your emotional autonomy is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Every small authentic decision rebuilds a little of your self-trust. Every moment you maintain a healthy boundary strengthens your internal structure. Every time you choose truth instead of comfort, you reconnect with who you truly are. And here is the most important part. You don't need to confront her directly about the manipulation tactics. This usually only generates denial and conflict. Instead, simply stop participating. Stop seeking validation. Stop over-justifying yourself. Stop sacrificing your authenticity for temporary peace. Your actions speak louder than any conversation. In time, either the relationship transforms into something healthy based on mutual respect and autonomy, or it ends. Both outcomes are victories. Because in both, you have recovered something invaluable, yourself. And no relationship, no matter how intense it seems, is worth the price of your soul. If this content has opened your eyes to patterns you couldn't see, subscribe to the channel. Because understanding invisible emotional dynamics is the first step toward building truly healthy relationships. The final truth is this: you deserve a love that does not demand that you stop being who you are. You deserve partnership, not performance. You deserve connection, not control. And it all begins the moment you decide that your emotional freedom is not for sale, no matter the price offered. That decision changes everything. Always.